Afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you're tuning from. So today I'm just going to talk about automatic negative thoughts and how it relates to what I do. So I'll start off by explaining who I am. I'm just going to share my slides with you now. Um, so my name is AB. So, okay. Um, Gosh, I think I've got the. Oh yeah. Okay. So I might need my glasses. Yeah. Okay, my name is AB Smith, and I am the founder of Epiphany Life. I'm therefore the CEO of Epiphany Life, and I am a coach, a lifestyle coach. And let's see if you can hear me. If you can't hear me either way, you can put in the chat so that I can see that. Um, I think it's all okay. Can't see anything. Okay, so okay, my slides. Yeah. Um, make sure the volume's all up so you can hear. Okay, so just want to start. The agenda for this, like I said, we've got a disclaimer. Welcome. I'll talk about who I am, just really briefly. Connection to self, what ANTS is all about. Talk about three fixes, and then talk about support, and then just a wrap up session. If there are any questions, could be in the chat box. I should be able to see that. So who am I? My name is AB Smith. I'm the founder of PM Live. Why do I do what I do? So it's a brief story. Sorry, it's the hay fever season, so I tend to get watery eyes at this time. Um, so yeah, I'm a lifestyle coach, and I coach women who have come through trauma, in my case, domestic violence, come through trauma and want to find success through that. So, not letting that stop you from being stuck. And some of the things that you come across through any type of trauma is that you get automatic negative thoughts. Talk about the origin for automatic negative thoughts, and I guess that happens to everybody, but and specifically in this case, yeah, it can um, result in losing of self-confidence, self-image, self-esteem, and so can keep you stuck. So in dealing with the monkey brain and what goes on in your brain, it can help you to overcome your limiting beliefs, which can keep you stuck and help you to be successful in life. Because going through trauma, you might think that it's your fault and that it's holding you back. And even though you might have gone through therapy, but if you're not currently in therapy, those thoughts can still come back. And so you have to find a way to learn to manage it. So, does it feel that you have a monkey brain? I know mine does feel like that sometimes. Do you feel it's impossible to have a silent mind? I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. It's kind of like, oh, it's difficult for me to meditate because I find it difficult um, hearing things. I'm just checking to see if there's anything in the chat before I continue. It's all fine. And why is it that I focus more on negative thoughts? So we'll talk about that. So why is it that we focus more on negative thoughts? Because we through the years of evolving, we still got our reptilian brain, and this is a part of the brain right here, kind of like at the back side, the part of the brain that keeps us well, except in the old days when you saw a tiger, you had that fear response, so or freeze, fight or flight or freeze, and you go into that motion straight away to be able to keep yourself safe. These days, it's not. We don't see the super saber tooth tiger all the time, but it still has the same effect when we have any kind of stress. So even if it's like running to catch a bus, running late for a meeting, it still feels that way. And so it's been able to discern, use the prefrontal cortex, tongue twister for me, to be able to realize that and focus and realize that there's no out there and be able to calm your mind down, because these thoughts are kind of like quick, and you have to ways and tools that you can use to help to calm it down, to be able to think straight. So how did the term ants come across? So there's a famous doctor in America called Dr. Daniel Amen, and he's got a famous clinic which is recognized worldwide, and he coined the term automatic negative thoughts, which is coined one day he came home after a day's work, and he had an ant infestation. And because, like he said, in medical school they use mnemonics to remember things, he coined the word automatic negative thoughts, which when I found out about it, I really loved it. So I use it quite a lot to what I do. And so when we have the negative thoughts, we we go into the fight over, like I said, and it's about taming your mind so that your mind is not throwing those tantrums and getting really, really overwhelmed with things. Yeah. For example, like if you've got a child who you've promised them that they'll go somewhere, something happens and you can't go to Disneyland and they can't get there, and then they throw a tantrum. So your mind's just like that, where we speak to our children to be calm, but we do the same things in our mind, in that our mind then throws a tantrum when we get into certain situations. So how do you create an ant ghost town? So in that it's like a calm situation in your mind, and we'll be looking at maybe three strategies you can use. Um, so when we have a thought, sorry, I hate figure explaining. When we have a thought, chemicals are released in the brain. So when we've got positive thoughts, um, oh, when we have positive thoughts, our mind becomes calm. But when we have negative thoughts, we get all jumbled up, get confused. We have a loss of memory. So the mind being in that monkey state of mind causes us to have a brain fog, basically. And obviously there are other things, but that's kind of one of our easy fix that we can do. Uh, So where you bring your attention determines how you feel. So if you bring your attention to positive thoughts, then you feel calm and nice. If you bring your attention to negative thoughts, then you kind of feel overwhelmed, panicked, anxiety, um, yeah, you feel anxious and possibly depressed. And so it's very important that we learn how to focus our minds on the positive thoughts. Um, so it's just learning. So learning new habits. We can't help what comes into our minds, but we can choose what we want to focus on. So the thoughts come in, and this is where mindfulness and meditation is a big help, because the thoughts come in and we can learn how to let the negative thoughts pass by like a cloud. It's all practice. At first, when you do, you might think, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. But with practice and with time, you find that it makes a difference. So you choose the thoughts you want to focus on, and what we focus on becomes reality, because what we focus on, like they say, like there's a saying about self-fulfilling prophecies. When you focus on something, you make that thing happen, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. So what are the answers? What is the solution to a monkey mind, to the ants in your brain, in your mind? uh, like I said earlier, focusing on negativity ruins memory. um, so if you keep your negative thoughts and you don't like resolve them and you don't address them, you end up with an anxiety, being stressed out, or being depressed. So it's very important that you address the negative thoughts and your mind. Don't squash them and think, oh, they're going to go away, because they won't if you don't address them, because you'll keep having that misinformation in your mind. So the first tip with, that you do when you have these thoughts, you write down what you're thinking. So you've got a negative thought, write it down, and then you can write it down like I would have a sheet of paper and have a true and false, and then a section to write it down. So the second tip is you identify, is that a true feeling or is that a wrong feeling? Like you might say, you might have an argument with somebody, your partner, and you might say something like to yourself, or you might respond and say, "Well, you never listened to me." But that's just in the heat of the moment. You've said that, but if you really think about it, you think that no, that's not true. So it's not true. So it's a false statement. It's not actually true. And then you talk back to yourself and have that discussion with yourself. Is it true or isn't it true? For example, somebody gave an example of, and I guess as parents, a lot of us do that, especially when there's a situation of not being with the father or mother of the child. So the child does something, and you say, "You're just like your mother or father," and which can be very damaging to say. But when you think about it, you might think you can just say like turn it around and say, um, "You're just like your mother." So you're just like me in that case, being a woman, and look for the good things in that person or that child. Um, So even though you might say you're just like that, if you really look at it, you'll find that no, really, the child might have good parts of the other parents, but because when you're in the heat of the moment and out of anger, you lash out and say something that you shouldn't have said. But if you take deep breaths and think about it, no, it's not that way, and then you find out that through those thoughts and that self-talk to yourself about that particular situation, you find the positivity about it, and that the original statement was actually not a true statement. And so that really helps you and helps your relationships. Because if you don't deal with it and you say for it, and in your mind's thinking this is the case, um, then you will definitely, without knowing and unconsciously, act in a negative fashion towards that individual, which will create relationship problems. Um, so that's just an example, but with anything, with your limiting beliefs, for instance, limiting beliefs, a leopard doesn't change his spots. So you know somebody and you think after 10 years, you're still tarring that person with something the person's done 10 years before, because you kind of think a leopard never changes his spots. But if you actually check, you'll see that people do change through time. And so that's not a true statement. So therefore, your relationship and your action towards that person or your feelings about that person are different, because you do realize that that person has put in an effort. So, and about yourself, okay, for instance, an example about yourself. Nobody likes me. I mean, another one. Everybody thinks I'm stupid or something like that. Is that really true? That's not true. It's just something that we conjure in our head. Most people, I'm not. The reality is not that. But when you start asking around or you observe, you find that that's not a true statement. So you might feel a certain way about yourself because you think that people feel that way, and that's not actually true. And if they do feel that way, then that's actually their problem and not your problem. So it's not things for you to worry about. Um, so yeah, like I said at the beginning, I'm a lifestyle coach, and I help people, women in particular, to gain confidence, self-esteem, to be able to help them move forward from through through trauma, to be able to find success. And one of the things and easy fixes is looking at limiting beliefs, looking at your mindset. So if you'd like help to jumpstart the change, you can contact me on email, LinkedIn, and on my website. And that's it for today. If you got any comments, put that in the chat box, and I'll just come over here. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this little short training. I do like short trainings like every month. Um, and if you've got any particular subject that you'd like me to address, you can just put in the chat section, because I'll be open for you to do. And my email address is info at epionylive.com. My website is um, www.epionylive.com. And that's it. And you can find me on LinkedIn, maybe Theatre Smith. Speak to you soon and see you soon. Bye. My glasses to turn on.